I think there's so many unanswered questions in the gaming industry, and will we ever get those answers? I'm not really sure that we ever will. You know, I would love to see a book one day on, you know, written about the development process behind Halo Infinite, right? Like, what happened? I think there's like this huge shipwreck that happened there, and you know, we only get sort of to sniff like the outer realms of what's really happening there. I mean, for that to really totally break down to where it's at, just unbelievable. I mean, you're talking about a studio basically built on limitless funds that have had 6+ years to build the game. They've had this leadership set in place, multiple leaders gone, new leaders put in. The game was supposed to be a launch game for their new console. That doesn't happen. I mean, you know, even with their flighting, they're saying that it's probably not going to be what people expect, because of, you know, for whatever reason. So, you know, I don't expect miracles with the game. I'm sure it'll be a fun game when it comes out, but man, for 6+ years and, you know, $500+ million, you would probably figure on something a little bit better. Now, we'll never know probably unless somebody, you know, does write a book or whatever, but there are multiple instances of things like this starting to come out now. And one of the people that I respect a lot is Sean Layden, the former head of PlayStation. Now, the interesting thing is he is talking in this new interview, and he gives a lot of interesting information, and it's really relevant to Sony, but also relevant to Microsoft, because it is what a lot of people kind of have been talking about and been sort of mentioning when it comes to the ability to, you know, play games and this whole reach hundreds of millions of gamers thing, right? Like, again, I've always stated that I thought that was a bunch of nonsense, and basically it kind of backs up what I was saying. I do want to get into this right away because it is going to be quite a lengthy discussion, so hopefully you guys hit the like button. It's me, Crapgamer, with another video. Thank you so much for joining me, the one and only Crapgamer. Slap that like. It's me, Crap Gaming. Slap that like button for me. Go ahead and slap it hard. We're having fun. We're doing some cool stuff, and this is one of them. So, at Game Lab last year, Sean Layden grabbed headlines for calling out the spiraling costs of game development. Although much was made of his suggestion that games should be smaller or more expensive, he actually, if you guys remember, commented about the length of like Miles Morales and you know, the offshoot of Uncharted. You know, because he said that those were good. And I gotta be honest with you guys, I like the length of those games, right? They seem very reachable and attainable to me. I give up on games like Assassin's Creed, the latest Assassin's Creed, Valhalla. I gave up on that. It's too much, right? Like, too much. Like, the Spider-Man Miles Morales seemed like a good length of a game, you know, over 10 hours to beat. Sort of, and people go, well, that's small, but really, the new Tomb Raider games were all in that like 12-hour range as well. So yeah, not too bad. Although much was made of a suggestion that games should be smaller or more expensive, his concerns are rooted in the reality that for all the revenue growth seen in the console space, audience growth remains elusive. The number of people who own consoles today is broadly the same as it was in the late 90s, around 240 to 260 million people. He says, we're just getting people in the gaming world to spend more money. In an interview, he continued, with each console generation, the cost of games goes up 2 times. So PS4 games were $100 to $150 million to make. So it stands to reason that PS5 games, when they hit their stride, will be excess of $200 million. It's going to be very difficult for more than a handful of large players to compete in that space. Now, during that time, we have also seen more consolidation. Consolidation is the enemy of diversity in some ways. It takes a lot of playing pieces off the table as they grow into these larger conglomerates, and again, we end up with this problem with diversity. Music on a revenue basis is probably 1/5 of the game space, but their cultural impact is 100 times what gaming is right now. We are narrowing ourselves down into genres and sequels and certain types of games. Favorites like my own, like Pa Rappa and Vibe Ribbon, these things don't seem to get a chance to come out on stage. That's bad for the industry and for fans. Over time, that leads to crumbling of the games industry if we just keep talking to the same people and telling the same stories in the same way. I was interested in Streamline because it was spent most of the time of its entire 20 years with a remote distributed development model. They speak 27 different languages throughout their studios and have 47 different countries. It is an incredibly multicultural workforce, and that is where the future of breaking gaming to a wider audience beyond the 240 to 260 million people is. Of course, if you add in mobile phones, you get, this is the very interesting quote that I 100% agree with. He says, of course, if you add in mobile phones, you get to hundreds of millions of players, but those are related to distinct categories. We've learned over time that mobile gaming isn't necessarily a gateway into console, but just a different thing for people to do at a different time of the day. So this industry is ripe for disruption, and some of us get better on that. So that's the part that I really agree with them, because if you ever go and ask, you know, a PlayStation fan or an Xbox fan, mostly an Xbox fan, I would say, you know, because a lot of the Xbox fans think that console sales don't matter, and they'll bring up that, you know, it's an old metric, etc., because that's what they've been kind of brainwashed by Phil Spencer to really kind of say, because basically Microsoft gave up on that space. You know, a long time ago. They just got the crap kicked out of them, and so obviously you try to go to other places, so they always go, well, we're going after billions of gamers and blah blah blah. But what really kind of they discovered was the people that are using the streaming services, the xClouds, were already customers on their console or PC. So you're not actually gaining new console members or new console people in that aspect. You know, you're basically, what's happening is you're just reaching your audience through a different means. Your same audience. You're not actually growing anything, because, and I said this multiple times as well, look, there's already mobile games out there. There's millions and millions of free mobile games that are much better suited, that you download, that aren't going to require streaming, that are created specifically for a phone, that are going to be much better for people to play in those little spurs and moments that they can play games. You know, I don't care how hardcore you are, and you're, oh, I'll play it on my lunch break. Okay, sure, buddy. You know, we'll see how long that lasts. You know, I mean, trust me, lunch break, I want to take a nap, get my food down as fast as I can, take a nap, and you know, get back to work. So yeah, like sitting there trying to stream a video game just isn't for me. I've never been in a situation where I thought, man, I really wish I could be, you know, playing a game, you know, because I'm either driving or working or you know what I'm saying? So I understand, and I knew right away that that wouldn't be what they were trying to do. So it seems that Layden is more than just making sure that games industry grows financially. Shortly after his GameLag talk, certain publishers raised the price of their video games for the first time in 2 generations, but this doesn't solve the problem, according to Layden. He says, but even that, it doesn't match the rate of inflation over the last 20 years. It helps, but not enough. And not enough to open up doors for new talent to come in. Again, the entrenched players are holding on to their market and trying to extract a little bit more value of it. It doesn't solve the problem. It's these big opportunities and challenges that has drawn Layden to Streamline Media. The group is part developer, part service business, offering art, code, QA, and localization. So that, you know, that kind of gets on to what he's kind of talking about and what they're able to do. The main thing I thought that was also very interesting was a lot of the stuff that they were talking about was the AAA console market. And things like that. So it's very interesting to see that the way that they kind of go about this and talk about it and make sure that you're going to be able to do that. So Layden comments on the size of the console market reflect that of Xbox boss Phil Spencer, who believes things like subscription services, Game Pass, xCloud will enable console industry to go beyond the 250 million number. But Layden is skeptical of this. This is what Sean Layden said. People don't buy consoles because they want more steel and plastic in the living room. People buy consoles because they want access to the content. If you can find a way to get the content into people's homes without a box, then yes, indeed, everyone has a streaming solution of some form. Most of it is limited by whether you have decent internet connection, and they haven't constructed the business model that works yet for it. It's very hard. Now, this is the part that was very fascinating. And I quote, it's very hard to launch a $120 million game on a subscription service charging $9.99 a month. You pencil it out, you're going to have 500 million subscribers before you start to recoup your investment. That's why right now you need to take a loss-leading position to try and grow that base. But still, if you only have 250 million consoles out there, you're not going to get 500 million subscribers. So how do you circle the square? Nobody has figured that out yet. So what is the answer? It comes back to diversity. Gaming is reaching the end of its second epoch, which was the last 25 to 30 years of consoles everywhere, according to Layden. What is the third one? Who is going to make the definitions around that? Who is going to lead this thing? Our industry as a whole has to get in front of that. I'm sure there are concerns about who sold more boxes last week and all that, and companies need to look at that because they're businesses. But those of us who can chart the course for the third one, I think it's an exciting thing to be a part of. But going forward, you're going to see a lot of stuff coming out of Streamline in the game space, but also in the enterprise space, and it looks like a way we can help or revamp new creative and ideas and things like that. So he's going on, like, obviously his new business venture and things like that, which I think is good. But I think, you know, when you look at it, you have to sort of agree that, and that's not even pocket watching, there's really some of these instances where you have to wonder what's the end game there, you know. And I think that's the thing that most people are, you know, you have somebody who's legit running the biggest, like, gaming company in the world, and I'm not saying Microsoft or Sony, I'm saying PlayStation is bigger than Xbox. It's bigger than Nintendo. That's just facts. He ran this for many years, so I tend to think he knows what he's talking about. So I would love to hear what you guys think, though. Sound off, rate, comment, subscribe, fact them up. Crap Gamer out.